Captain Jace had seen many strange planets in his years of exploration, but none like this. The sky glowed with a pale green light, and the ground shimmered like liquid metal. Towering plants with translucent leaves swayed gently in a wind that smelled faintly of ozone. It was beautiful, but dangerous. Sensors picked up faint movements, creatures lurking in the shadows. Jace adjusted his helmet and checked his gear. "All right," he muttered to himself. "Just a quick survey. In and out." He had been sent to map the ruins of an ancient civilization rumored to hold advanced technology. But he did not expect to find what came next. A soft sound reached him from the edge of the ruins, a cry unlike any animal he had heard before, melodic but desperate. Jace froze. His instincts told him danger was near, yet another part of him urged caution. Slowly he approached, scanning with his flashlight. There, crouched behind a broken column, was a girl. She was unlike any species Jace had ever encountered. Her skin had a faint iridescent glow, and her large eyes reflected the green light of the sky. Her long hair floated slightly, as if weightless, and her slender form trembled. She was clearly alone and frightened. "Hey," Jace said softly, raising his hands in a non-threatening gesture. "I'm not going to hurt you. Can you understand me?" The girl's eyes widened. She did not speak, but her gaze was intense, curious, and somehow pleading. Jace noticed her unusual movements, small, quick gestures that seemed instinctive, almost animal-like. She was clearly confused, unsure of what she should do. He stepped closer slowly, careful not to scare her. "It's okay. I'm here to help." The girl tilted her head, studying him. Then, without warning, she made a sudden dash. Jace reacted quickly, catching her gently but firmly before she could run too far. "Easy," he said. "I'm not your enemy." Her body stiffened in his arms, and for a moment she seemed frozen in fear. Then she struggled briefly before relaxing slightly. Jace felt the weight of her confusion and helplessness. He looked around. The ruins were unstable, and predators could be nearby. Leaving her here was not an option. "All right," he muttered. "You're coming with me." The girl hesitated but made no move to escape. Her large eyes seemed to say, "I don't know what this is, but I trust you." Somehow. Back at his ship, Jace tried to communicate. "Can you understand me?" he asked again. The girl blinked but remained silent. She pointed to herself and then to him, repeating the gesture with a questioning tilt of her head. Jace realized she did not know human ways at all. She was driven by instincts, maybe even mating instincts, but she had no idea how to act properly. He had read about alien species with strong reproductive drives, but seeing one confused and vulnerable was new. He offered her water and food. At first, she hesitated, unsure how to respond, but hunger won over, and she accepted. Slowly, cautiously, she began to eat, her trust in him growing. Jace noticed how her body language changed. Her eyes followed him constantly. Her movements were hesitant, yet curious. She seemed to want to understand him, to connect. "Name's Jace," he said finally. "What's yours?" The girl tilted her head again. She did not speak, but she made a sound. Soft, almost musical. He nodded. "Lyra, huh? I'll call you Lyra for now." Lyra blinked as if the name suited her. She repeated the sound softly, experimenting with it. Jace chuckled. Good enough. Hours passed. Jace explained the basics. Where she could eat, where she could rest, and simple rules for being safe on the ship. Lyra watched him carefully, learning quickly despite her lack of understanding of human behavior. Her instincts pushed her closer to him, but she seemed unsure what to do with those feelings. Night came, and the green light outside cast long shadows. Lyra sat near the control panel, her eyes wide with wonder at the blinking lights and strange screens. Jace noticed her small, shy movements, the way she tilted her head and reached out to touch things hesitantly. "You're curious," Jace said, smiling. "I like that. Curiosity keeps us alive." Lyra tilted her head again as if trying to understand him. She then reached out, lightly brushing her hand against his arm. It was brief, tentative, and innocent, but Jace felt a spark of recognition. She was trying to communicate, in her own way, that she trusted him. Suddenly, alarms blared. Jace jumped to his feet. The sensors detected movement outside, predators drawn by Lyra's presence. He looked at her. "Stay here. Don't move." Lyra's eyes widened, fear clear in her gaze. She nodded slightly, understanding him better than he expected. Jace grabbed a weapon and prepared to defend the ship. Within moments, shadowy figures began to emerge from the ruins outside. The creatures were unlike anything Jace had faced before. Tall, wiry, and covered in chitinous armor, with sharp claws glinting in the green light. They circled the ship, waiting for an opening. Lyra moved closer to him, instinctively seeking protection. Jace placed a hand on her shoulder, feeling her tremble. "It's okay. I've got this." He opened fire, taking careful, precise shots that sent the creatures scattering. Lyra watched, wide-eyed and tense. When the danger passed, she clung to him briefly, then stepped back, unsure how to express her relief. Jace realized something important. She was completely unprepared for this world, yet her instincts had driven her to him. She wanted protection, guidance, and perhaps more, but she had no idea how to ask. As the night settled, Jace and Lyra sat together in the ship's small cabin. He gave her water again and offered a warm blanket. Lyra leaned against the wall, her large eyes studying him with a mixture of curiosity and instinctive longing. Jace shook his head and smiled softly. "This is going to be interesting," he muttered. "You have no idea what you're getting into." Lyra made a soft sound, almost like laughter, though it was alien in tone. She was learning slowly, and somehow, despite the dangers, despite the confusion, she had chosen to follow him. And Jace knew this was just the beginning. The morning light spilled across the ship's cabin, washing over Lyra's glowing skin. She was awake before Jace, sitting quietly and watching the controls with her wide, curious eyes. The previous night's danger had left her cautious, but also more aware of the human world. Jace yawned, stretching as he walked into the cabin. "Good morning," he said. "Didn't hear you moving around." Lyra looked at him and made a small melodic sound, tilting her head. It was her way of answering, though Jace had no idea what it meant. Still, he smiled. "All right, we'll start with something simple today. Learning how we communicate." He showed her a small whiteboard and drew simple shapes, then pointed at himself and said, "I am Jace." He gestured to her. "You are Lyra." She repeated the sounds as best she could, experimenting, her face serious and intent. It was slow work. Her species had different vocal cords, and some sounds were impossible for her. Yet her determination impressed Jace. "You're learning fast," he said, and she blinked at him as if proud of herself. But teaching Lyra about human behavior was harder. She often acted on instinct without understanding the rules. When she grew hungry, she would try to grab food directly from his hands, her claws brushing his skin. "No, no," Jace laughed gently. "We don't do that. You wait, and I'll give it to you properly." Lyra looked puzzled. She tilted her head, then mimicked him, reaching carefully for the food. Jace realized her instincts were strong, but her intelligence allowed her to learn quickly. She wanted to do the right thing, even if she didn't fully understand it. HFY ship landed on a nearby moon to gather supplies. Lyra followed Jace outside, stepping cautiously over the rocky surface. She froze at every strange sound, every shadow. Yet she stayed close, her instinctive trust in him clear. Jace handed her a small energy pack. "Here, take this. It's how humans carry food. You eat when you're hungry. Lyra inspected it, turning it in her hands, then opened it with careful precision. She looked at Jace and made a sound, a soft trill of surprise. It tasted good. Jace chuckled. See, nothing to fear. You can survive here, with help. But her instincts didn't stop there. She was curious about human touch. She reached for Jace's arm, brushing her hand against him as she walked. He noticed, gently moving her hand aside. "Not yet," he said softly. "You'll learn how humans do this properly." Lyra blinked, a little disappointed, then tilted. Her head. She was learning, but frustration and desire mixed in her eyes. Jace realized that she didn't just want food or protection, she wanted closeness, but didn't know how to ask for it. Later, while Jace repaired a small hover vehicle, Lyra tried to help. She picked up tools awkwardly, dropping them repeatedly. "Careful," Jace said, laughing. "You'll get it. Just watch me." She watched him carefully, her alien eyes following every motion. When she finally managed to hand him a wrench properly, Jace nodded. "Good job. See? You can learn anything if you focus." As the day went on, Lyra grew bolder. She explored. Corners of the ship she hadn't seen before, pressing buttons and peering through viewing panels. Every discovery brought a new sound of excitement, an alien laugh, musical and pure. Jace couldn't help but smile. "Curiosity can be dangerous," he said, "but I like seeing it in you." By evening, Lyra's instincts became more apparent. She began moving closer to him when he worked, brushing against his leg or arm. At first, Jace corrected her gently, but then he realized something important. She wasn't just touching him randomly. She was seeking reassurance, a connection, something she didn't know how to name. Before he could react, she leaned against him, resting her head on his shoulder for a brief moment. Jace froze. It was innocent, but her trust was clear. "All right," he said softly. "I see what you're trying to do, and it's okay, for now." Suddenly, the ship's sensors picked up movement outside. Jace's eyes narrowed. "Not again," he muttered. A group of predators, similar to the ones from the previous night, were moving closer to the ship. Lyra stiffened, instinctively. Clinging to him, Jace grabbed his weapon. "Stay behind me." He moved swiftly, scanning the area. The creatures were cautious, circling the ship, waiting for an opening. Lyra's instincts were on high alert. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, and she made soft sounds of warning. Jace realized she was trying to communicate danger, even without human words. "Good girl," he said quietly, smiling. "You're learning fast, more than you know." He fired carefully, driving the creatures back. Lyra watched, tense but fascinated. When the threat receded, she approached him slowly, brushing her hand against his arm in relief. Jace patted her shoulder. "You're brave, but stay close." That night, back in the cabin, Lyra curled up on a soft mat, her eyes never leaving Jace. He realized how much she had learned in one day, about humans, about trust, and about connection. Her instincts were strong, but her intelligence allowed her to adapt. "Tomorrow," he said, lying down near her mat, "we'll start learning about human touch properly. Not just instinct, communication, respect, all of it." Lyra made a soft sound, a mix of curiosity and excitement. She didn't fully understand, but she wanted to learn. And Jace knew this was only the beginning. Her instincts would push her, but her trust in him would guide her. For the first time, he allowed himself to feel something deeper. She wasn't just an alien in need of protection. She was learning, growing, and connecting. And he would make sure she understood the human way of trust, respect, and closeness. The green light of the alien sky bathed the ship, casting long shadows across the cabin. Jace glanced at Lyra, asleep but alert even in dreams. A small smile touched his lips. "This is going to be interesting," he whispered. And he was right. The morning sun of the alien moon rose slowly, casting pale green light across the jagged rocks. Jace stretched and rubbed his eyes. Lyra was already awake, sitting by the ship's edge and staring at the horizon. Her glowing skin reflected the light, making her look like a creature born of the planet itself. Jace stepped outside, carrying a small pack of supplies. "Good morning," he said. "Sleep well?" Lyra looked at him and made a soft trill, tilting her head. Her expression was calm, but alert. Jace knew she was already thinking about the day, curious, cautious, and instinctively aware that survival on this moon would be difficult. They needed water and food. The sensors had detected a small stream nearby, but the path was rocky and dangerous. Jace gestured for Lyra to follow him. "Stay close," he said. "This terrain can be tricky." Lyra moved beside him, stepping carefully but with surprising grace. Despite her inexperience in this world, her instincts guided her. She sometimes leaped over rocks or clung to ledges as if she had walked this path before. Jace couldn't help but smile. "You're strong," he said. "Faster than me in some ways, too." Hours passed as they navigated the rocky slopes. Jace kept an eye on Lyra, teaching her simple survival techniques, how to recognize edible plants, how to avoid unstable ground, and how to signal danger. Lyra absorbed it all quickly, her large eyes reflecting intelligence and determination. Yet, her instincts were never far from the surface. She often brushed against him when climbing, her movements awkward but clearly seeking reassurance. Jace learned to interpret these touches, not as random contact, but as her way of showing trust and seeking closeness. They reached the stream. Water sparkled under the green light, and strange, translucent fish swam lazily beneath the surface. Lyra knelt, cupping water in her hands, and drank quickly. She glanced at Jace, almost smiling. "Good," he said. "Hydration is important. You're learning fast." But survival wasn't just about food and water. The moon had predators, and Jace knew they were not far away. As he scanned the horizon, he noticed movement, shadows slipping across the rocks. He motioned for Lyra to stay behind a boulder. Her instincts kicked in immediately. She crouched, low, muscles tense, eyes glowing faintly as she scanned the surroundings. Jace noticed the soft sounds she made, warning trills, alerting him to threats he might have missed. "They're close," he whispered. "We need to move carefully." A pack of the moon's predators appeared, tall, wiry creatures with claws glinting under the pale light. They circled, searching for an opening. Jace prepared his weapon, but he also realized something important. Lyra wasn't afraid. Not completely. She trusted him, and she was willing to act instinctively to help. Lyra leapt forward suddenly, making a high-pitched warning call. The predators hesitated. Her glowing eyes, combined with her sharp movements, confused them. Jace seized the moment, firing carefully to scare them off. When the creatures retreated, Lyra ran to him, brushing her hands against his arm in relief. Jace patted her shoulder gently. "You're learning more than I expected," he said. "Your instincts, they're amazing, but you need guidance too." They set up a temporary shelter near the stream. Lyra helped gather rocks for walls and collected strange plants that could be used as padding for their sleeping area. Jace taught her how to use the tools properly, showing patience as she struggled at first, then succeeded. By evening, they sat together near a small fire. Lyra's large eyes reflected the flames as she watched him eat. Slowly, she began mimicking his movements, picking up food with care and attempting to eat like a human. Jace laughed softly. "Not bad. You're getting the hang of it." Lyra tilted her head, her soft trill expressing what sounded almost like pride. Jace realized that this small bond, teaching her, protecting her, surviving together, was forming something deeper than instinct. It was trust, friendship, connection. The night brought new dangers. Strange noises echoed across the rocks, and Lyra instinctively moved closer to him. Her hand brushed against his arm again, tentative but seeking contact. Jace let her stay close, understanding that this was her way of forming trust and expressing attachment. "You're safe with me," he said quietly. "No harm will come to you if you stay near me." Lyra's response was subtle but clear. She leaned slightly against him while keeping her eyes on the surroundings. Jace felt a sense of protectiveness grow stronger in him. She was more than a creature he had found. She was a being capable of thought, emotion, and connection. Hours later, Lyra drifted into a light sleep, still curled near him. Jace watched her, marveling at her alien features, her glowing skin, and her intelligence. He knew her instincts were strong, but her ability to adapt was even stronger. "This is just the beginning," he whispered. "We have a lot to learn, about each other and about this world." The green light of the alien sky shone over them, casting long shadows. Jace realized that in this strange and dangerous world, survival was not just about strength or intelligence. It was about trust, understanding, and connection. Lyra stirred in her sleep, her instincts guiding her even in dreams. Jace smiled softly. She didn't fully understand human ways yet, but she wanted to. And he would teach her, carefully, patiently, and with respect. Together they had survived the day, grown stronger, and formed a bond that neither predator nor planet could break. And Jace knew deep in his heart that Lyra was beginning to understand. Something very human. Trust could be stronger than instinct, and connection could be more powerful than fear. The next morning, the alien moon seemed quieter than usual. A thin mist covered the jagged rocks, making the world look mysterious and almost magical. Lyra was awake, pacing near the edge of the cliff where the ship rested, her glowing skin reflected, the soft light, and her large eyes scanned every shadow. Jace emerged from the cabin carrying supplies. "Good morning," he said. "Sleep well?" Lyra tilted her head and made a soft trill. She had slept lightly, always alert to the environment. Her instincts were strong, but Jace noticed that she had started following his routines, watching, learning, trying to understand him. Today, he planned to teach her more about human behavior, especially personal boundaries. He gestured for her, to sit beside him on a rock. "Lyra, humans show connection in many ways. Touch is one, but it has rules. You need to understand these rules before we continue." Lyra's eyes widened, her instincts causing a faint blush across her glowing cheeks. She leaned forward slightly, curious and eager to learn. Her body language was honest, open, and instinctively affectionate. But she didn't yet understand the human meaning behind her actions. Jace demonstrated. He reached out slowly, letting her see the motion. "We don't just touch randomly. We wait for permission. See?" He tapped her hand gently. Lyra flinched at first, but then watched closely, imitating the gesture cautiously. "Good," he said. "See? You're learning quickly. Your instincts are strong, but learning the human way keeps everyone safe and happy." Lyra tilted her head, and a small trill escaped her lips. It sounded almost like a laugh. She was learning, and she was enjoying it, even if she didn't fully understand the rules yet. Suddenly, the ship's sensors beeped. Jace's eyes narrowed. "Movement nearby. Not from the predators we know." A rival alien appeared, a tall, muscular figure with armor, unlike any species Jace had seen. Its glowing eyes were fixed on Lyra. Jace realized immediately this was one of her species, and it was attempting to claim her according to its own instincts. Lyra's body stiffened. She instinctively moved closer to Jace, her glowing eyes reflecting fear and confusion. She did not understand this alien's behavior, but she knew it was dangerous. Jace stepped in front of her, his hand resting lightly on her shoulder. "Back off," he said firmly. "She stays with me." The rival made a series of sounds, harsh, commanding. Lyra's instincts stirred. She made a high-pitched call in response. Jace recognized it as a warning, a signal that she wanted protection. He understood her instinctive language, even if humans couldn't speak it. "You're not going to harm her," he said to the rival. "She chooses her own path." The alien stepped closer, testing Jace. Its claws glinted under the green light. Lyra instinctively moved behind Jace, pressing against him for safety. Her actions were natural, instinctive, but also brave. She trusted him completely. Jace didn't raise his weapon immediately. Instead, he relied on human strategy and intelligence. He circled the rival, showing strength without aggression. "Humans are clever," he said. "We can solve conflicts without unnecessary violence." The rival hissed, confused by Jace's calm but confident stance. Lyra's instincts were heightened. She moved subtly, alert to every motion of the stranger. Jace noticed her body language and smiled inwardly. She was learning to act with awareness, combining her instincts with what he had taught her. Finally, the rival backed down, clearly unwilling to engage further. It disappeared into the mist, leaving Lyra trembling but safe. She turned to Jace, brushing against him instinctively, as if saying thank you. Jace placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're safe now. See? Trust and understanding matter more than instinct alone." Lyra blinked at him, soft trill escaping her lips. She was beginning to understand that human ways were different from her species' instinct-driven culture, but they were safe, fair, and based on mutual respect. The rest of the day, Jace focused on teaching her more about human interaction. How to ask permission, how to show affection without forcing it, and how to interpret subtle cues. Lyra absorbed it all, her large eyes reflecting intense concentration. At one point, she reached out and brushed his arm gently. Jace looked at her, understanding the gesture. "Not bad," he said softly. "You're learning fast. It's okay to show affection, but you also need to respect boundaries." Lyra tilted her head and made a small sound, almost like a laugh. She was experimenting, testing, learning. Her instincts were still strong, but she was starting to understand human rules. By evening, the green mist had thickened, casting eerie shadows across the rocks. Lyra sat close to Jace, her hand resting lightly on his arm. He looked down at her, realizing how far she had come in just a few days. "You're learning," he said. "Not just about survival, but about connection, trust, and respect. That's what makes humans strong." Lyra's eyes glowed faintly in the mist, and she made a soft trill. She was beginning to understand something profound. Her instincts wanted her to act immediately, but her mind was learning patience, trust, and choice. Jace leaned back, watching the alien sky. "Tomorrow," he said, "we'll practice more. You're ready for the next step. Understanding human, closeness in action, not just instinct." Lyra blinked, her expression a mix of excitement and curiosity. She didn't fully understand yet, but she wanted to learn. And Jace knew this was just the beginning. Her instincts were strong, but her intelligence and trust in him would guide her further. As the night fell, the mist thickened, and shadows danced across the rocks. Lyra rested her head near him, watching, listening, learning. And Jace knew that in the coming days, their bond would grow even stronger, tested by instinct, challenged by culture, and guided by trust. In the quiet of the alien moon, two beings from different worlds were learning to understand each other. And for Jace, the thrill of this connection, the mix of danger, learning, and trust, was just beginning. The alien sky was painted with soft green and gold streaks as the sun began to rise over the jagged horizon. Jace stretched, feeling the crisp air of the moon fill his lungs. Lyra was already awake, standing near the ship, her glowing skin catching the early light. "Morning," Jace said, walking toward her. "Ready for today?" Lyra turned, her large eyes blinking. She made a soft trill, tilting her head as if asking what the day would bring. Jace smiled. "We continue learning, but there might be a visitor?" Lyra stiffened slightly, sensing the subtle tension in his voice. Her instincts flared. She moved closer to Jace without thinking, brushing against his arm for reassurance. Jace's eyes narrowed. He had picked up movement on the sensors. Another alien from her species, larger and more aggressive than the last. It approached cautiously, but clearly intended to challenge him for Lyra. "Stay close," Jace whispered, placing a hand on her shoulder. Lyra nodded, pressing slightly against him, instinctively seeking protection. The alien appeared on the cliff edge, its glowing eyes fixed on Lyra. It let out a low, commanding sound. Jace understood immediately. It was asserting dominance according to its species' norms. Lyra's instincts flared, but she didn't act. Instead, she waited, trusting Jace to handle the situation. Jace stepped forward, his stance calm but confident. "She's not yours," he said firmly. "She chooses her own path, and I protect her." The rival alien moved closer, claws glinting under the green sunlight. Jace didn't panic. He remembered the lessons he had learned about alien instincts, combined with human strategy. Instead of attacking, he used movement and presence to assert dominance without harming the creature. Lyra watched every motion, learning from him. Her instincts wanted her to act immediately, to flee or fight, but Jace's calm and confident approach showed her another way. She began to mimic subtle gestures, using her body to communicate caution and alertness. The rival alien hissed, clearly frustrated by Jace's intelligence and patience. Lyra stepped closer to Jace, brushing lightly against him. He felt her trust, her instinctive need for protection, and her growing bond with him. Finally, the rival backed away, disappearing into the mist. Lyra let out a soft trill, relief and excitement mixed in her voice. She moved closer to Jace, looking up at him with her large, glowing eyes. Jace knelt slightly to meet her gaze. "You see?" he said softly. "Trust and strategy are stronger than instinct alone. You're safe, and you're learning to protect yourself too." Lyra made a small sound, almost like laughter. She reached out and brushed her hand against his arm. This time, Jace didn't move her hand. He understood. She was expressing something deeper, affection, trust, and a desire to bond. "Good," he said. "That's how humans connect. Careful, gentle, respectful, not forced." Lyra tilted her head, absorbing the lesson. Her instincts still pushed her toward impulsive action, but now she paired them with thought and observation. She was learning human ways, step by step. After the confrontation, they returned to the shelter. Lyra stayed close, her hand occasionally brushing Jace's arm, a subtle but clear sign of attachment. Jace watched her, realizing how far she had come, from a scared, instinct-driven alien to a curious, intelligent being beginning to understand human emotion. "You're ready," Jace said finally, "not just to survive, but to express yourself in ways humans understand. That's important if we're going to stay together." Lyra blinked, soft trill escaping her lips. She didn't fully understand words, but she understood trust, safety, and connection. She moved closer, almost pressing against him. Jace put an arm around her shoulders, a protective and gentle gesture. Her instincts flared again, strong and undeniable, but this time they were tempered with understanding. She wanted closeness, and she knew how to show it without confusion or fear. "Lyra," Jace said quietly, "I protect you. I care for you. You don't have to act on instinct alone. You have a choice, and I will respect that choice." Lyra's eyes glowed brighter. She made a soft musical trill and leaned slightly into him. Jace smiled. This was her way of declaring trust, her way of choosing him. The moment was quiet, yet profound. Lyra had learned to balance her instincts with understanding. And Jace had come to realize something important. He wasn't just protecting her physically, he was forming a bond that neither species could fully explain. Hours later, as the sun dipped behind the horizon, Lyra curled up near him. She rested, her head on his shoulder, breathing slowly and evenly. Jace let her stay, feeling the warmth and trust radiating from her. "Tomorrow," he said softly, "we'll take another step. You're ready to show more, safely and with understanding. And I'll be here, every step of the way." Lyra blinked, her large eyes filled with curiosity and anticipation. She didn't fully understand human words, but she understood his intent. She was ready to grow, to learn, and to bond. Jace leaned back, watching the alien sky turn from green to deep indigo. The bond they had formed was no longer just about survival. It was about trust, choice, and the beginnings of something deeper. And, for the first time, he realized how much he wanted this connection, not just as a protector, but as someone who could guide, teach, and share life with her. Lyra's instincts might be strong, but her willingness to learn, her trust, and her affection had created something human and real. As the stars appeared in the alien sky, Jace smiled softly. "We're ready for whatever comes next," he whispered. "Together." Lyra stirred slightly, her hand brushing his gently. He felt the bond, unmistakable now. It was no longer instinct alone that guided her. It was choice, trust, and a growing understanding of human connection. And Jace knew, deep in his heart, that this was just the beginning. The alien sky was a swirl of green and gold as dawn broke over the rocky horizon. Jace tightened his jacket and glanced at Lyra. She was awake, sitting quietly near the ship, her glowing skin reflecting the soft light. Her large eyes followed him wherever he moved. "Ready?" he asked. Lyra tilted her head and made a soft trill. Jace smiled. Today would mark the next step. Not just survival, but leaving this dangerous moon behind. The ship's sensors had picked up strange readings from another nearby planet. It was uninhabited by intelligent life, but held resources they could use. It was time to move on. As Jace started the ship, a familiar alarm sounded. Movement. Another group of predators, drawn by Lyra's unique scent. Lyra stiffened instinctively, moving closer to him. "Stay behind me," Jace said. "I've got this." The predators approached, circling the ship. Jace took careful aim, using precision shots to scare them away rather than harm them. Lyra watched, alert, her instincts guiding her. She wanted to help, but she understood now that patience and strategy were more powerful than immediate action. The creatures retreated, and Lyra pressed gently against his side, seeking reassurance. Jace placed a protective arm around her shoulders. "We're safe. Trust your instincts, but remember, observation matters too." Once the danger passed, Jace powered up the ship and lifted off. Lyra's eyes widened as the ground fell away. She leaned slightly toward him, brushing her hand against his arm. This time, Jace didn't move her hand. He understood. She was expressing connection, trust, and gratitude. "You're learning fast," he said softly. "Stronger than you know." Lyra made a small musical trill. She was not just surviving, she was bonding. She was beginning to understand humans, their ways, and the value of trust and respect. As the ship left the moon's atmosphere, the stars stretched across the sky like silver threads. Lyra pressed closer, resting lightly against him. Jace felt a warmth spread through his chest, a mix of pride, protection, and a deep connection he had not expected to feel so quickly. They traveled in silence for hours, both lost in thought. Jace checked the navigation and resources, while Lyra explored the ship carefully, touching controls and watching the blinking lights. Every small movement she made was a lesson learned, a new way to interact with this human world. "You're ready," Jace said finally, breaking the quiet. "Not just for survival, but for everything that comes next. Together." Lyra blinked at him, her glowing eyes reflecting his face. She reached out and lightly touched his arm again, her way of affirming the bond they had built. Jace smiled and held her hand gently. He felt the connection. It was mutual, respectful, and growing stronger every moment. Hours later, they reached the next planet. It was calmer, less dangerous, with soft blue skies and gentle winds. Jace guided the ship to a safe landing. Lyra's eyes widened as she took in the new world. She moved carefully, exploring the soft terrain and observing everything with keen attention. "This will be our new temporary home," Jace said. "We can rest, gather supplies, and prepare for the next journey." Lyra tilted her head, making a soft trill. She was curious, cautious, but eager to explore. Jace noticed the subtle way she stayed close, her hand brushing against his occasionally. It was not just instinct anymore, it was choice. She wanted him nearby. As the sun set, painting the sky in hues of purple and gold, they sat side by side on a small ridge overlooking the planet's valleys. Lyra leaned against him, her hand resting lightly in his. Jace felt her trust and affection, and he squeezed her hand gently in return. "You've come a long way," he said. "From scared, lost, and instinct-driven to someone who understands trust, safety, and choice." Lyra made a soft sound, almost like laughter, and leaned a little closer. She didn't need words to show she understood. Her instincts were still part of her, but now they were guided by learning, observation, and trust. Jace realized something important. She wasn't just an alien he had protected. She was a partner, a friend, and a companion who chose to stay by his side, and he wanted that connection just as much as she did. "Tomorrow," Jace said, looking at the horizon, "we'll explore more, learn more, survive together, and be together." Lyra blinked, soft trill escaping her lips. She understood enough now to know that he meant safety, trust, and closeness. She leaned slightly into him again, letting him feel the bond fully. Night fell, and stars filled the sky. Lyra rested her head on his shoulder, breathing softly. Jace looked up at the cosmos, feeling awe at the vastness around them, and gratitude for the bond they had formed. She had no idea how to act when she first found him, driven by instincts, confused by a new world. But now, she understood trust, patience, and the strength of connection. And Jace understood that human ingenuity, patience, and compassion could guide even the most instinct-driven beings. Together, they sat quietly, two beings from different worlds connected by choice, understanding, and trust. The dangers they had faced were behind them, and the stars ahead promised new adventures. Jace put an arm around Lyra, holding her gently. "No matter what comes next, we face it together," he whispered. Lyra made a soft trill, resting closer. Her instincts were still strong, but now they worked with her mind, her heart, and the bond she shared with Jace. And as the alien sky stretched above them, Jace knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning of their journey. Together, they would explore the stars, survive dangers, and grow stronger, each step guided by trust, choice, and the bond that neither species could break. The green and gold lights of the alien horizon shimmered over them, reflecting on two figures sitting side by side, a human and an alien, connected not by instinct alone, but by understanding, respect, and a shared journey across the stars. And in that quiet moment, across the infinite galaxy, they were no longer just explorer and alien. They were